And we are live. What's up, beasties? It's me, it's Triple B, your friendly neighborhood bearded book beast. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another episode of Beast Friends Forever. Woo! We got an awesome show tonight, an awesome guest tonight that I cannot wait for you guys to meet. Thanks for hanging out late. This time works out good for Tim, and it kind of works out nice for me because my kids are in bed just chilling, so I don't have to worry about it like when I do it at 8. So this guest tonight is awesome. Multi-talented writer. That's right, I said writer. Not just an author of books that I love, this beautiful book right here, but also video games, series, all sorts of things, and we're going to talk all about it. And he's also a very kind gentleman, which when you read his book makes it even more fun when all the dirty deeds go down. So without further ado, let me bring on my awesome guest tonight, writer and author Tim Carter.
Hey, thanks so much for that, man. Such flattery. I love it.
Oh yeah,
my head is growing. I won't fit in the frame in a second.
Flattery will get you everywhere, right? That's the same. So welcome, man. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited, and it's a thrill to come on the show. I watched a whole bunch of them, so it's like it's so awesome when you were already watching someone, and then it's like, I'm on the other side. That's amazing.
Oh man, well I appreciate that, dude. I mean, I feel that way every time I get to have somebody on. I've seen you in the comments and of my videos, of posts, of everything, and then when we get to chat and I get to celebrate you and help you shout out your stuff, that's awesome. And P.S. by the way, we'll talk about it later. When I find out that you wrote one of my favorite video games of all time, that's pretty sweet too.
So well, thanks so much. We'll get into it for sure. I got some good stories.
Oh, I bet, dude. It's wild. Like I knew you had written some video games, and I just never saw anywhere exactly what game it was. But then I saw it, and I'm like, wait, isn't that one game? And then I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that game. So I'll say it now. If anyone has not played Sleeping Dogs, you need to play it. It is amazing. It's like Grand Theft Auto, but with a really good story. And it's got amazing graphics, really good writing, which was my favorite part of it. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. But just a hidden gem game that people always talk about in hidden gem lists and stuff on YouTube. But a lot of people still have never played it, and they need to because it's awesome. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But the star of the show is this beauty back here, Jester.
Got my copy. Whoops!
There. I know. Good luck with that.
Mirror image thing is not.
I've done. This is number 130, and I still go to the wrong side. I'll never get used to it. Oh man. Well, speaking of stars, we've got somebody in the chat here that just shouted us out. Said, "Evening, friends, Mr. Tim McKay. What's up, Tim?
Hey, Tim.
Channel member. Thanks for being here. We're glad that you can make it, man. But I also love your writing, so keep working on stuff. Oh, well, you're probably editing for other people, not for yourself, but still, make that money, man, so you can write those books. And then if anyone else in the chat, if you're just hanging out and you don't like to put stuff in the comments, you don't have to. Just hang out and have fun with us. But if you do think of something, put it in the chat, and I'll be sure to ask Tim. If you're watching on replay, we appreciate you as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. And for everybody, down in the description below, I have Tim's website listed. I have links to his books. So go check all that out and support Tim because he's got some awesome stuff going on. I also have Sleeping Dogs link down there too because I couldn't help it. So let's start off and talk about this book behind me, Jester. Why don't you tell us what this book is about and kind of what the books you've written 2, you're working on a 3rd. Tell us about the genre, kind of like what you write, and then specifically tell us about Jester.
Sure. So Jester, it's my first full-length novel, my 2nd book, and I'm calling it cozy stabby fantasy. So it's somebody said that in a review way early on the first book, which was called Majordomo, and I just thought, okay, that captures it perfectly. So like any good writer, I'm stealing it, shamelessly. So it's meant to be very heartfelt. You're meant to really sympathize with the characters. It doesn't feel grim, but at the same time, there's a body count. Things are
Yeah.
going to get messy, and our hero is going to run into brick walls pretty much constantly. So and the stakes are higher than your classic cozy fantasy novel. So Jester's a story of a goblin named Shelley. I have a real affinity for the sort of races and characters that are often sort of put at the very bottom of the totem pole in Dungeons and Dragons as a longtime player myself. And Shelley is a latrine slave in an incredibly poorly managed, very poor duchy, sort of off in the middle of nowhere, and has real problems with self confidence, as you would if someone bashed you on the head and carted you away to clean other people's toilets.
Yeah.
Uh, and then at the beginning of the book, he comes to realize that there is an existential threat to the kingdom, and that the people in charge are too stupid to really deal with it very well. And so, if he doesn't do something, he will get eaten by the undead horde along with everybody else when they show up and defeat the place. And that sets him on a journey. He takes one small action in classic sort of hero kind of terms, just thinking, well, I'll just do this one thing, right? And then then other people will take over. And of course, that just starts a chain reaction that has him going from the very lowest member of the castle to manipulating sort of diplomatic strategy and forming alliances with former enemies and engineering who's actually in charge and hopefully, I mean, I won't give it away, but it's a cozy, stabby story. So we're heading towards a fairly happy ending at the end, where he's sort of come out on top.
That's a perfect explanation for it, because reading it, it really reminds me of two things. Like Terry Pratchett, which we talked about, but also Joe Abercrombie a little. Like it's kind of like if you mix them together, because just like the crudeness of it and like the grit of it reminds me of First Law. And some of the humor reminds me of Abercrombie, but then it's got like that cozy, whimsical, just lighthearted feel too. So it's not quite all the way to grimdark. So I love it, man. I'm eating it up. I had picked this up when you sent it to me and loved what I read, and then I got sidetracked. I picked it up this week because I knew we were chatting, and I'm just loving it again, dude. So this is really good. I am loving it, man. I love that cozy, stabby fantasy. That's good stuff.
It's and yeah, I mean Abercrombie obviously is at the very top of the food chain there. I just read The Devils, and it was the first one of his where I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I would like to be aiming for. I thought The Devils, even though I don't know, people are branding it as horror, but it's actually kind of light. Like it's much
Yeah,
lighter
yeah,
than First
yeah,
Law, for instance.
yeah, yeah.
And then I live in Vancouver, Canada, and there's quite a few fantasy writers here, and for whatever bizarre reason, a lot of them are in this sort of tongue-in-cheek fantasy vein. So like Nicholas Eames lives not too far
Oh
from
yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian de Castel literally lives down the road from me,
Oh, no way.
and there's a few other people.
Yeah,
So we all know
I
each
could
other
see
now,
that.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Jackson
yeah.
Ford. I just had dinner with Jackson Ford the other day, and
Oh,
his,
that's another one I
you know,
love. Yeah,
so but all in that kind
feels
of,
like the Avengers of like cozy, stabby writing. All
it's
right.
crazy, right? And the reason I met Nick was that when I read Kings of the Wild, I just thought, oh my god, I got to get back to writing
Oh
fiction
yeah.
because I love this book and it's what I would like to do. And so reading that book actually got me off my butt and writing
Oh
fiction
wow.
seriously with like, okay, intent, I'm going to
Yeah,
finish
yeah,
this time, sort of thing. And then I wrote him a letter and said, hey man, your book inspired me to finish a book.
yeah. Oh,
And he
that's
said, well,
awesome.
send it to me. And it went from there.
Oh, that's cool, man. That is awesome. We got some people popping in here. I got a shout out real quick. We got Timothy Janata's here. Council of Tims may now commence. All these Tims here. And then he said, you sold me already. It was the name. Can't resist a fellow Tim. Well, once you start reading the book, you won't be able to resist either, Timothy. Lucas Clay is here. Thanks for being here, Lucas. He said he realized he has your book on his shelf that he had won in a big giveaway. So that's pretty exciting. You should
Awesome.
read it, Lucas. You'll love it, man. It's good stuff. And then, yep, Tim McKay says yes, the Timocracy. All right, so let's before we dive into kind of your journey into writing this book, let's talk a little bit. I want to talk about the cover, but first, let's you mention that this is your second book. So your other book is Majordomo.
Yep.
Uh, Now, should people read one or the other first, or does it not matter?
It doesn't matter. They're set in the same world and they very much have the same tone, but they're not sort of sequential in any way. So Majordomo is a 130-page novella about a kobold who's the sort of head butler of a very famous necromancer's, much feared necromancer's dungeon, except things aren't quite as they appear. And so the same, hopefully going for the same sense of heart, same sort of like a little bit of a found family vibe in the sense of you come to love the character and the people around him, but a completely different story. And in fact, the term cozy stabby came from a critic a review, because Jack knifed someone in the back pretty early in the book, and she was like,
Oh man,
"Whoa, was not expecting that to happen." And I'm like, "Yeah,
you're
we're
like
gonna be fun and cute, but we got to do it. He's got to do what he's got to do." So
that's right. You got to have the stabby stabby.
yeah,
Well, I'm gonna share my screen for a second here because I love talking about covers because I love book covers, book cover art, and I love both your covers. So I'm gonna share my screen to show Major Domo's cover, so we can talk about that one first. Then we'll
awesome.
talk about Jester's. So just give me a second because this I love Evie Mux, but when you share your screen, there's like extra steps. Once you share it, then it just adds it to my list of things I can show, and so then I have to go and add it. Then it's really small, so then I have to spotlight it, and there we go. All right, so I feel like both of your books covers capture the book so well. So tell us about this cover. How did it go? Because this was your first one, right? So your first time, finding a book cover for a book that you wrote. How did the process go for you? How did you settle on this? Was there back and forth? Is this kind of always what you wanted to do? How did all that work out for you?
It I got to give a lot of credit to the artists at Mibble Art, which is the company that did the cover. I knew nothing about covers, and I think we'll get into it. I've worked in a lot of different mediums. I'm pretty comfortable working in video games, in movies, in television. I am no kind of visual artist, right? So I think my biggest strength is at least coming to the table knowing I have no talent.
Right,
Uh,
right.
and so I went to them and said, like, I'd like something, that is a riff on 70s or 80s video games and RPGs. And like literally, and I gave him a spiel on the story. And, the tagline is, plucky underdog, a fearsome necromancer, and the idiot heroes that want to kill them. So it's like, it's tongue in cheek, and they came back with something quite close to this. So I think we added the door and the keep out sign after I said I want to make it clear that actually a physical place, and this guy
Mhm.
is sort of the door warden. But that they really sort of nailed it. To me, that was like Ultima 2 or Ultima 3. Going back, I'm old, so these games are from my teenage years
Yeah.
and early 20s. But those kind of yellows and stuff, it really had that vibe of that. So, and I just loved it from the
Oh yeah.
first time they sent it over.
Oh, that's awesome. So it went really good then, and it was well done. It's just it pops. It looks really good, and yeah, I love it, man. Did they do this typography and everything?
They did everything. Yeah. Yep.
Wow, yeah, it looks good. I like how it's like on the board going across the door. That's pretty cool. That's a good touch. I dig it. All right, let me get this off of here. There we go. All right, so now tell us about this bad boy. Which side? This wait. There we go.
I'm glad I'm
How
not
did
the only
how
one.
did this cover come apart? About same kind of process.
Yeah, the same kind of process. There was a lot more steps to get it there. I think it took the artist, again, I worked with Mibble Art, same company, but it took a little while to get across, look, this is kind of silly. And really my lovely wife gives me a lot of artistic input in the sense of helping me to develop notes, just because she's got a way better eye than me. And
Yeah.
she's like, look, go, like, purple and yellow is like the color of royalty and the color of a clown. And that's kind of what the whole story is. Right. So,
Yeah, that's true.
and they go together, like
Yeah.
so it was really, yeah, give me really bold colors. I feel like, now this may be from a marketing perspective a bad idea. I have no idea, but there are so many books, including many that I love, but also many where they all feel the same, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
the dude with the sword and the dragon.
Yep.
And, there is a big bad in this. It could have been someone facing off against it, except that the whole point of the story is our character is not going to win by drawing a sword and hitting anybody. Like, that's
Right.
just a
Right.
guaranteed loser for him. He
Yeah.
needs to be pulling strings behind the scenes. And, I just thought I went back and looked at Terry Pratchett's covers, to be honest, and
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
had really big splashy colors, and sometimes they had art that they had the character, but a lot of times they didn't. And so I just thought
Yeah.
I picked a few of those I really liked and sent them to the artist and said, this is I want people who love this to love
Yeah.
my book.
Yeah.
And so and if you get even a small fraction of the people that love Terry Pratchett, you've done really well, right? So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love it, man. It's got that whimsical, cartoony, fun look, and this is like the Skeleton Queen
Yeah. Yeah,
for
watching
minions
from the
down here. Yeah, right. Let me see if I can make it go the right direction. Show people close up. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good on there.
yeah, the skeleton queen's at the top there pulling the
I love
strings.
it.
She's our big
Oh yeah.
bad.
Oh, I just noticed that just now. I didn't even notice her up there. I'm glad you said that. That's awesome. And then you got the castle over here.
Yeah, where the whole story basically takes place. I would say 90% of it inside that
Yeah.
castle. He's not allowed out, basically.
Then of course on the back it wraps around and there's the latrine cleaning
Yeah.
bucket and mop. I love it. That's awesome. How did you decide on the Jester like this with the 3 letters and 3 letters?
The trick is I wanted people to recognize it, especially if they're looking at a tiny little thumbnail on
Yeah.
Amazon. I think you got to have really big letters, but somehow make it
Yeah.
like still artistic. And so
Yeah.
that was really the design brief was, if this thing is like an inch and a half high, I want the color to leap out, and I want them to see the title, and everything
Yeah.
else,
It
can
does.
go by the wayside. So
Yeah. Nice. And I like the dagger through the R. That's a good touch. I
yeah.
always love stuff like that. That looks good.
A
Uh,
stiletto plays a certain plot device role through the middle of the story,
okay.
in a
Okay.
particularly sort of disgusting way. So
Oh, nice. I'm getting to the middle, so that's good. So yeah, cover is awesome, man. You nailed it.
thanks, I
Nicely done.
appreciate it.
Are you now? Are you sticking with the same cover artist for the next one?
I mean, I had a really good experience with them. If and other indie authors are out there and they're looking for someone that's definitely at the lower end of the price range, but gives you a really good working experience and good final product, I can't recommend them highly enough. So I think if I could find, I do from my years in video games know a lot of concept artists, and so
That's
at
true.
some point finding what I couldn't find on these, I was in a bit of a rush on each of them. I wish
Mhm.
I had spent longer from the time I finished the book till the time the book came out. I didn't have a favor to pull where I could get one of them to actually do the main character,
Yeah.
but I sort of aspired to that, and then maybe bring in a designer to sort of do some design elements around the
Yeah.
art, because I think book cover design is it's its own unique
Oh
skill,
yeah.
and you want someone who's good at it,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. Well, and the beautiful thing is if eventually you on a future book you find somebody that you know and they do cover art that you really love and you're like, oh, I wish it matched now. You can go back and you can
Yep.
change it. That's the
Somewhere
beauty
down
of
the road,
doing
that
it
is
the way you do it,
absolutely, yeah,
or a special edition or a Kickstarter or just, whatever. Like there's so many things you can do nowadays where before it was like, well, that's kind of just stuck with the cover unless the publisher wants to switch everything, you
yeah,
know.
sure.
So it's kind of nice that you can do that. So I know you're working on a third book, but in your mind's eye, how many books do you see being in this world that kind of this cozy, stabby fantasy world?
Well, a bunch more at least. The book I'm working on now is called Familiar. The main character is a familiar,
That's awesome.
and hopefully, it's a double entendre. So her life story, like her challenges, even though she's a tiny, magically created character that dies all the time. Her life's problem is she's sick of this idiot first level mage sending her on constant suicide missions, which is what people do in my campaigns all the time. And I thought, this is a terrible life for this poor creature.
Right.
She came about as a character. And then past that, one of the main sort of supporting characters in Majordomo was a necromancer named Nephris, who we meet at the very end of his life. He's sort of the big, the sort of big guy, but he's very elderly in that story. And so I felt like in writing his story, I just sort of threw things out. Like people are constantly referring to the time that he did this or the time that he did that or whatever. And I thought, there's enough there for a character to go from when he very first discovers he has almost like a Mozart quality gift for magic, right? Like a once in a generational talent, but his talent is for necromancy. So everyone's terrified of him. He's like 15 or something. Like, his life's going to be interesting.
Right.
So I think there's a couple of books in him. And then I have another one I want to do about a guy who he's the first son of a fearsome war king. It's the end of an exhausting kind of World War I type, war. And in the peace deal, he's traded, he's sent to the other side to live in their castle as a hostage. Wow. But so right away, he's in this castle with all these people who are suffering, from 4 years of grinding warfare against his people. Yeah. Right. It's like he's a British guy and he gets sent to Berlin at the end of
that's World pretty War interesting already.
And what he knows that nobody else does is his dad hates him, hates his mom, wants the bastard son to inherit the kingdom, and so is eager for him to meet a bad end, preferably one that allows him to justify World War II, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, and that's just like, that's probably 10 years of writing right there.
Yeah.
So
already you got a good chunk.
Yeah. In my earlier life as a screenwriter, I wrote a lot of horror movies and a bunch of them never got made. So maybe somewhere I'll start to pull some of those story ideas out.
That's true.
They obviously are not cozy, stabby fantasy at all. So they'll sort of run in parallel. But I don't think I'll ever run out of the cozy stabby stories.
This is kind of going to be your thing. Unless
I like it.
While you want to take a break and do something else, but you've got enough in the old thinker to last a long time.
I really like living in that world. I like living in that tone and that kind of voice. So that's easy
fun, man. I am loving it. Speaking of loving it, another booktuber who loved your book and had you on their channel, Josh from Already Overbooked, is here. What's up, man? You do know.
Josh.
Yes, you need to coin that. Well, I guess you heard it somewhere else, but you need to make a T-shirt before somebody else makes it.
That's a good. I'm going to start thinking about that. Actually, it's a good idea.
Well, and I feel like these characters, especially being from things that have come to you from D&D stuff, you could make, I think, a lot of fun merch with just characters in this book already. But then all the things you just described, like you could probably make some really fun stuff just based on all this.
Yeah, I need my artist partner. I need someone who I have a friend that makes T-shirts and other. I got a guy that makes the merch and does it professionally. But
you just got to find the artiste.
I got to find the artiste who wants to collaborate on that.
Oh, here we go. Bouncing Boredom is here. That's a cool name. Thanks for being here, my friend. Cozy Stabby Fantasy is the next hot trend. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Like, all right, sounds good. Sign me up. That sounds good. It should be. That's like the perfect mix. Like everybody loves cozy. Everybody loves, grimdark, stabby. Put them together. Whew. It's a good thing, man. It's a good marriage.
It works for me. There's a line that you got to thread there, but I find them really fun, and I read all kinds of stuff. I'm all over the place, but I like the books that just come across as fun. If it's 700 pages of uber grim, I think just
too much. Yeah,
it's too much. Yeah, I'll still finish if I like it, but even like I think you hit the nail on the head. Like even First Law, which is one of the founding pillars of that. Yeah. Like there's quite a bit of pathos in there, and there's actually a fair bit of humor. Like he's having fun with with
Yeah,
these
it's just
characters.
fun,
So
and that's why he does characters so well that you really should hate, but you end up loving them.
well, I mean, Glocka is like that, just
Oh,
famous for that.
oh yeah,
You could
you
spend your
should
whole life
like that
thinking about
guy,
why
but
you
you
like
love
this
him.
guy. Yeah,
I mean, all the way through all the books, you really don't have a lot of reason to like him, but you just do
yeah.
because they're just so well done. So, uh, healing potion is hot cocoa. There you go. I like it. All right, so let's go back and let's hear about this very interesting journey that you've been on. You've done so many things with your career and your writing and everything, but take us back even further than that. Take us back to just when you were just little Tim. What were some of the things back then that kind of inspired you and shaped, your love of reading, your love of, movies and screenplay, video games, fantasy in general? Take us through that, and then just, this is your show, man. I want to hear the story. Take me through all these awesome things you did, and how you ended up right here on Beast
Oh,
Friends
well,
Forever talking about your stabby cozy books.
thanks. Well, yeah, so if you talk about the things that wrote me in it, my dad
Oh,
loved.
I gotta shout this out real quick. You'll appreciate that. That's a good one, Tim. Back when he was tiny Tim. All right, go ahead.
Nice. Um, I think it starts with your parents, right? Like my dad
Mhm.
loved adventure stories. Both my parents were readers. My dad
That's
was
awesome.
British, and so he loved the really British ones. So like the Bernard Cornwell, like
Oh
Sharps.
yeah,
You know what? If we were clobbering the French, he was down for it, right? Alistair MacLean. So
yeah.
I love those kind of adventure stories, and somewhere in there, because I would read them as like he'd read it and give it to me, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Neither of my brothers were really into reading, and then I read obviously Lord of the Rings, like everybody, right? And it
Hmm.
was like,
Hmm.
oh, this whole world
Oh yeah, opened
opened
up to
up.
you. Yeah.
So I stayed with those two things, kind of pulled me into the world of fiction and the world of fantasy. And on the gaming side, I loved games. Like when I was an uber geek. We lived in a really rural area. I lived on a flower farm, like out in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
And I love strategy games. Like right from like the first time I saw one, I think I was 8. So, and the only person I could play with was my dad. And in as a farmer in the summer, he's not
Yeah.
around, and or he's around, but he's really busy.
Oh
And
yeah.
but so I would invariably have a game set up on a table that I would play against myself because there's just nobody to play, right? And same with some D&D I would explore because I would try to rope my younger brother in, but he just didn't have wasn't his thing. So
Hmm.
when video games came along and I could have opponents, AI opponents, or even you could play with your friends, but like the one of the first games I played, you made your move. You took the floppy disk to high school and gave it to your buddy. And he went home at night and made his
Oh
move and
yeah.
brought it back the
Yeah.
next day. Like
Oh
this
yeah.
were, the original sort of multiplayer experience, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like that was just that just swept me off my feet. So I was in love with video games, like basically from the inception of video games, because I graduated high school in 1986. So we had an Apple II and like 2 games on it, right?
Oh gosh,
Um,
man. Yeah. Not as much variety as you do now. Now there's almost too much.
yeah. Now it's insane, right? But and so then that like I just kept I loved that all the way through school. In university I ended up studying strategy, and then I worked for like a strategy think tank. They do an awful lot of gaming there, right, in the sort of military sector. I still have a tiny foothold in that world even today. But and then from there, I started writing. There was at that time strategy games were the biggest PC games out there, and so I started writing for a magazine called Computer Gaming World, which
Oh
was the big
wow.
thing at the time,
Yeah.
right? Way in
That's,
the early
I remember. Oh
'90s.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
That's
so
crazy.
I became one of their regular correspondents. I wrote for them for many years, and that was my first entree into the business of gaming, or
Yeah.
the idea that I could be somehow a part of that world, not just a fan.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and then various twists and turns in life, and I ended up working always with words, but like I worked in magazines, and back when print magazines were actually a thing. You know, and then somewhere along the way, I had a really well-paying job, and it ended. They shut down the magazine. This is
Mm.
right when print was starting to go, and it's like, okay, I'm like 33 or something. I've got money in the bank. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have kids. If I'm gonna jump to entertainment, like
Right.
it's now or never, right?
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
want to wake up on my deathbed at 70 and be like,
Yeah.
oh, I should have
I should have done
written
that.
those books, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so with knowing nothing, completely blind, I just decided, okay, I'm going to become a creative writer now, from being a more of a corporate-y kind of
Yeah.
managing editor type guy,
Yeah.
and started writing screenplays because I lived in Vancouver and I knew nothing about fiction. But man, the film industry was crazy at the time in
Mm.
Vancouver. And I would bump into people, just in the coffee shop where I hung out. Like a lot of the
Yeah.
guys from the X Files would come in and have
What?
their coffee
That's
and
crazy.
talk about what they're doing, right? And
True.
so,
That was a hot area for that. Yeah.
yeah, it was at the time. It was the first big wave of that,
That's
um,
cool.
and so I started writing screenplays, which is sort of a good way to train yourself, but actually a very low probability way of ever getting a job. But
Right.
uh,
Right.
and then that kind of morphed into starting a film company, because I couldn't get anyone to pay any attention to the
Yeah.
screenplays I was writing,
Yeah.
which led me to then move to LA and really make a push for it. And
Wow.
eventually, I sold a TV pilot to CBS, and I sold a movie to Universal, got representation. And then that, I had a producing partner, and we got this little production company off the ground, which then led to making five. I think we made 5 or 6 movies of varying types, starting with a really small indie movie that we sort of cobbled together money from friends and family and went out in the countryside and shot, in
Oh man,
the
that's
cheapest
so
way
cool.
imaginable. To then, so part of the story was, then I went to a slightly bigger project, and then to a bigger
Yeah.
project, and then got into a studio and went through that journey, which is pretty common, and then wrote 30 or 40 scripts that never got made, along with the 5 that did, right? Which is
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's
That's
pretty much
how it goes, right? But like you said, now you got some work to make books from if you want
it.
someday.
Well, I have I got a bunch that I are like whatever calling me from the back of my mind.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and in the middle of that, there was a writer strike in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved to LA in 2004, and a lot of stuff got closed down. And I had friends back in Vancouver who worked in the video game industry, and they were like, dude, we are dying for good writers. Like, it's always a problem. If you're not doing anything, please come back. And,
Wow.
and sometimes it was just, we need a guy for a weekend,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like my very first paid gig in video games, this company was launching a go-kart racing game, and it had to be E for everyone. And the ratings board had thrown out a bunch of their jokes. And they're like, look, the game ships in like 5 days, right?
Oh
We
gosh.
have to write a bunch of jokes, record them, put them in the game in
Oh
like
no
48
way.
hours. So,
That's
and
wild.
unfortunately, the characters' lips didn't move. So you could,
Oh
you could have
yeah.
them say whatever you wanted, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was the same company actually that made Sleeping Dogs. So having done that for them, now I was like their kind of guy you call in an emergency sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Dang. That's
and so
awesome.
then that started like a weird, like, okay, I got one foot in the video gaming industry and one foot in film and TV, and those, which in a way is at the time like the late, like 2008, 2009. That was
Mhm.
a great way to be, because both of those industries were sort of booming, but both of them were also ones where you would pitch something and then it might take a year for it to get going. And it's like, I got to pay the rent, man. Like,
I got
I
something
can't wait
else.
a year for a paycheck.
Right.
So while I was waiting in the film industry on something, I would go work in video gaming. And then while I was working on a game, the film thing would be, ticking along, and
Yeah.
people would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
thinking about it and whatever. And then by the time I was finished, like something would be kind of ready to go. And the combination of those two led me to an interview, a completely random interview with someone at Warner Brothers. And they're like, okay, who are you? And I said, well, I got one foot in video games and I got one foot in really small
Yeah.
indie movies. And they're like, we have a job for you. Like literally hired like off of that
That-
explanation of my
oh,
skill
that's
set.
wild.
And that was making a digital series that became Mortal Kombat Legacy, which at the time digital was a big deal, but no one knew what to do with it. There was like one scripted drama on YouTube, which was The Guild with
Oh
Felicia
yeah.
Day's show, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And this director had done something kind of visionary with Mortal Kombat, but it was only 2 minutes long. and Warner Brothers wanted him to do it, and they had a very small amount of money, and they're like, look, we need someone who speaks gamer, because the gaming
Yeah.
company, every time we get in a room together, everyone ends up yelling at each other, and we need an insider, right?
Yeah.
So they'll calm down. And we were hoping at the time we'd use a lot of game assets and the VFX, which is something you can do now, but back then
Mm.
was kind of a good in theory but terrible in practice idea,
Yeah.
as it turned out. But so then I produced that. I didn't write it. The director, Kevin Tantrone, wrote and directed it, but they brought me in to make it, because I knew how to make things very inexpensively. And then when that became a bit of a big deal, that launched my little film company into another sort of level up, because now we had made a studio show for Warner Brothers that, for 15 minutes, it was the hot thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and so that allowed us to kind of plant a flag, and from there we ended up securing the rights to a bunch of other video games, because by now I was writing games
Yeah.
at a pretty high level, which meant I knew all the kind of senior creatives and the people inside the companies that you needed to go to get the rights to games. And they were very reluctant. The game adaptations at that time had almost all been terrible, and so
Mm.
they didn't want to hand them over and then have someone make something really bad, right?
And ruin it. Yeah.
So that gave me kind of an inside track. So we got the rights to a bunch of games, and then ended up settling on working with Legendary Pictures, which was, they make Godzilla and they make a bunch of
Oh
other
yeah.
big,
Mhm.
sort of big spectacle things. Um, and so then I made a bunch of projects for them, which then sort of established me as a screenwriter, because I was producing them and I owned the rights, but the deal was I had to be the writer of the movie, right? So
Yeah.
I almost backed my way into a screenwriting career by, the leverage I had through being a
Huh,
producer. Um,
man,
and so that was just
what
then
a
most of
journey.
my career was, okay, I'm working on a movie, and then the movie's down and we're waiting on the next one. I'll go over and make a bunch of phone calls and see who needs some help on a video game. And
Yeah.
it just went back and forth. And somewhere in there, Sleeping Dogs, I had worked on 4 or 5 games. I'd worked on Mod Nation Racer, was the go-kart one. I wrote a couple of stories for Need for Speed, which I think
Oh
they then
wow.
decided to make the game with no story. But it, the check cleared. So on some level,
Yeah. Hey, that's all that matters.
as a writer, if you got paid, that's,
Yeah.
you put
It's
across
good
the
enough.
goal line. And Sleeping Dogs is, for people who don't know, is set in Hong Kong and is a riff on the Hong Kong movie series The Infernal Affairs, which later got adapted as well to The Departed. So the
Yes.
hero's an undercover cop in a triad, which is a
Yep.
Chinese organized crime, and the was basically an homage to Hong Kong action gangster cinema, right? And
Mhm.
but it was being made in Vancouver, and they wanted a writer who had lived in Hong Kong, preferably, and at least was Chinese, or came from a Cantonese background or something. And so I kept saying, okay, well, I'll help you find someone, right? My wife was born in London, but her ethnicity goes back to Hong Kong.
Mm.
And so we have uncles and aunts everywhere, and
Yeah.
but the that community didn't really want their kids to grow up to be writers, so I
Yeah.
couldn't find
That's
anyone.
hard. Yeah.
You know, and so I kept having to say I'm striking out, and then the game the game itself went through its own turbulent sort of journey of, it was originally true crime that was being made by Activision for tons and tons of money, um, as a direct challenger to Grand Theft Auto. And then they pulled the plug on it. They weren't, amongst other things, they weren't happy with the story and the writing. They pulled the plug. United Front Games, which was the people making it, then got another publisher to finance it, to sort of take the half-made thing and turn it into a finished product. But they put them on a really strict timeline, and it's like, look, you're starting today, and 12 months from now, you must have a game, and you're gonna have to cut things and work with what you got. And they just called me and said, okay, if we can't find anyone else, we love your writing. Can you, we'll take you, even
Yeah.
though you're obviously not ethnically the right guy
Right.
to write a Hong
Right.
Kong
Yeah.
gangster movie.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I was a huge fan of Hong Kong gangster movies. But so I came in and was the sole
Wow.
writer on the reboot of it and sort of
Yeah.
unified all of these bits. They'd gone through this thing where they sort of went down one road, then they went down a different road. They had some writers from here, then they got some guys from Hollywood, then they got someone from somewhere else. And it was, it was a bunch of, you're making a jigsaw puzzle out of pieces that aren't from the same picture,
Right.
Uh, so we kind of wiped it as clean as possible. And then, it was still the big picture, the big building blocks were there before. So
Mhm.
Wei Shen is the character. He's an undercover cop. He's trying to find out what happened to his sister. He's come back from America. He's very into martial arts. He goes into the gang, and off we go. But
Yeah.
exactly how it was executed and why you would love him and why you would even fall in love kind of with some of the gangsters, like, who are on one level awful people, right? But
Right.
uh, but at the same time, the idea was, okay, I know this guy's going to die in our version of the Red Wedding, which I'd like to say came out long before Game of Thrones.
That's true. That's true.
Uh, but I want people to really like him before we kill him, because then it means something. And
Yes.
so, that's what I sort of came in and brought all of that into the story and tried to really make those characters come to life in a way that you would care what happened to them,
Yeah.
right? Which is the trick, I think, in a lot of video game writing. You're running around with the character, and
Yeah.
the structure of the game imposes on you certain decisions or choices.
Yeah.
Uh, but the really good ones make you care about
Yeah.
what's going to happen to these
You want to
people.
pause and like go Google like what's gonna happen if I make this choice? What'll happen to this person? Yeah, like that's what that game was, man. I mean, it was fun. It was great all around, but the writing and the characters so well done, and like that's so cool to hear that behind the stories because I always just assumed it was written by someone who ethnically understood that like that culture and world and everything. So uh pretty impressive, man. You did a good
Oh,
job with
thanks. The two things I did to gain more authenticity, we didn't have the budget to go, um, but I did have, again, first of all, an
it.
extended family of in-laws, but then in the Chinese culture, you have uncles and aunties that aren't by blood uncles, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
they're all over the place. So I probably have 50 uncles, right?
yeah.
Which means I have all sorts of fraternal nieces and nephews to tap,
Mhm.
because the uncles are all like 70, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
But they're the elders.
yeah.
So someone who is not related to my family by blood, but he had just immigrated to Canada from Hong Kong, and before that he lived in mainland China. He was like 16 or something, and he really, when you come and he hopped through three different cultures really quickly, and I don't think he knew which way was up, but he loved Hong Kong gangster movies, and he'd been living in Hong Kong up until 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So I got him to come in. I got him a job as our kind of authenticity guy, in particular with the swearing and the street slang of Hong Kong gangsters. So he came in and like he wrote it in Cantonese, and then he kind of would listen to it and make sure that they got all the intonation right. They went and got Hong Kong actors, so they knew what he was writing as well. And we heard later lots of feedback from people there that, oh, you guys really nailed it. And he made me promise never to tell his mom, because apparently in Cantonese, some of the swearing is like really, really filthy, like really awful. But nobody knew, because nobody on the censor board spoke the language, right? So they're
Yeah.
just looking at the subtitles, which aren't nearly as bad as what people are actually saying. Uh, and he got his dream job. He's 16. He got to work in a game company, turning his dream movies into a video game. So,
Oh yeah. That's crazy. That's true. Oh man. What a wild ride, dude. Now what are some you talked about some of your scripts and how you made some movies and were part of some movies and stuff. Are there any that people might recognize or any that are out there that you think are you would want people to go watch if you mention
well,
them?
in every Hollywood career, there's a few you don't want people to watch. That's for
That's why
sure.
I'm leaving it up to you to say which ones you want to say.
I'm actually, though we were wildly under budget, the first adaptation of Dead Rising, which is called Dead Rising
Oh yeah, yeah,
Watchtower.
yeah.
We had about a tenth of the money we should have had, and it was a weird morphing of projects, in the sense that when we brought it to Legendary, Mortal Kombat was really hot. Mortal Kombat was on YouTube, and it was like 10 to 15-minute episodes. So we had maybe 10, 15-minute episodes, something like that. And the idea was you would watch each in sequence. Each one had a cliffhanger. The iconic character of, of Dead Rising is Frank West, and we had oh God, I'm spacing on his name now. I'm gonna have to look up my own movie. I can picture his face. He's a famous comedian. Anyway,
I have to look it up.
And he kind of was the hammer at the end of each episode to make you want to come back next time. But oh God, he's just.
I'm trying to look it up. Come on.
We just sat around having drinks every night. I can tell you everything about him, but for some reason his name is not
Jesse
my mind. No, Jesse was the star.
Oh, okay.
Jesse was the lead character, but Frank West was being interviewed in a news studio. Oh my God, he's the crazy cop in The Hangover.
Oh shoot, I know who you're talking about now. Dang it. AI let me down. Let me click on the actual IMDb for it. Let me see what it says. Come on. Oh, look at that. Writers. Tim Carter. That's cool. Come on. Oh, why is his name not on here?
Now you're making me want to look it up.
I know.
It's not Jeremy. It's not Jesse.
Why is the character not mentioned on here? Everyone else that was in this movie except for him is mentioned on here. What the heck? Oh man, it's gonna drive me nuts now.
It's gonna drive me crazy too. I'll keep talking, and you can find it.
Yeah, you keep talking. I'm gonna find it.
Frank West in Dead Rising Watchtower. It can't be, or his name's gonna come back to me. It's not Jeremy Piven. He's a colonel in the Marines. I can tell you everything about him. He's a huge fan of Indiana football.
Oh man, you do remember everything.
He's a super nice guy, and he was absolutely hysterical.
Is it Rob Riggle?
Rob Riggle, thank you. Holy cow!
I'm like, gosh, why do I not? I know I could picture his face, but I could not remember his name. There it is.
So that movie, then halfway through, Sony bought it from Legendary and decided they wanted to run it as a whole movie instead of as 10-minute episodes. And so I feel like it got a bit of a short shrift because it wasn't screened the way it was intended to be. Like, we made it already, right? Like, it had already been made in 10-minute episodes. They're like, just stick it together, which is the kind of stuff you sometimes hear from Hollywood executives, and it just that's why my hair is gray, right?
That's not how we made it.
It's not, and they're like, it'll be fine. But I'm really proud of it, and for the amount of money we had, I think it came off really well, and it had a really good cast, and it was a lot of fun. It was one of the most fun projects to make as well. Like, I really had a good time. I was the on-set producer as well, meaning at 4 a.m. in the pouring rain when there's a problem, I'm the guy out there doing it, but you really feel like you own it as a consequence of all those little things. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's that. And honestly, Mortal Kombat, which was made for $2 million, which is a shockingly low number and required all manner of crazy like shenanigans to get that made. Like we made that in, I think, 2009 or 2010. It was at the very height of the film boom in Vancouver. So everyone was working. We were like stealing crew off other shows, like on a kind of, you're free on Tuesday, I'll take you on Tuesday kind of thing.
Yeah.
But and everyone knew about this little show at the beginning of it because it was a digital series. No one knew where it fit into the union. Like it's all very heavily unionized, and depending on the type of show, the rates are set in a certain way. It took us a while to get everyone on board in the sense of, look, we only have this much money. We're not paying ourselves practically anything. It's an experiment. But once everyone realized that, and that it wasn't exploitation, they really sort of pulled together. So we had people like basically volunteering to do things. I had like I remember the executives from Warner Brothers came up and we're in a sound stage, which right away for $2 million in a movie, you should not be able to afford a sound stage. And there's like this Japanese village we built there. It's covered in snow, and then there's all these lights and like all the gack that you have in a like the top of a soundstage is just it's all electrical stuff, right? And they're
Mhm.
like, "How is this possible?" And I'm like, "Well, the snow we got from Battlestar Galactica because it's toxic, so they just didn't want to. They would have had to pay to throw it out, so we took it for free. That's like 50 grand worth of fake snow that we got
Oh
for
man.
paying the disposal fee.
Yeah.
All these lights belong to I think Batman or something, but they didn't need them this week, so they lent them to us.
So that
And
worked out
half this
sweet.
stuff is the WB, like all those WB shows, like the Arrow and stuff. It's like
Oh
all the
yes.
cables are from Arrow. This is all the stuff they're
Yeah,
not using this
that's
week, and
true. All that stuff. It
you know.
was all in Vancouver. You're right.
Uh, so that was a ton of fun too, and it you end up getting a thing. The only problem was we then set the visual bar, like it looked great, and
Oh
then they
yeah.
came back later and said, "Well, let's do that again." And I'm like,
You're like,
"Never
well, it's
gonna
gonna be
be
a little
able to do
different.
that again."
Oh man, that worked out nice though. I'm with Tim here. Tim McKay said, "Someday I'll have a life career story as cool as Tim Carter. Someday." It's pretty awesome, man.
The trick is to be really old and then just cherry pick the 4 or 5 cool things that happened over like 30 years.
There you go. See, that's it's about the snapshots when you're telling the story, right?
Yeah.
And El Montague, another awesome indie author. What's up, El? He likes the art on your wall back there.
Oh yeah,
That is,
Dr.
that is
Seuss.
pretty cool.
I
It's
it's a Dr. Seuss print called "The Cat from the Wrong Side of the Tracks," and it, as you can tell from when I got a, I this is where my budgetary thing is. It'll cost me a couple $100 to get it put on a better mat because you can see wrinkles in the damn thing. But it's just a reproduced poster. But the original of that thing cost the moon.
oh really?
I was like, oh, maybe I'll get that one day, and then I looked at what the sticker price was. I was like,
You're like,
yeah, maybe not.
this'll do. This'll do. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, from here, I can't even tell it has wrinkles. So
Oh well, okay. I'm happy about that.
I
I
never would
see
have guessed.
I saw him when I got the thing done, but it was too late. And then, so once you see him, you can't unsee him,
I
right?
see. Now I see them. I thought that was just all part of the picture, but now I'm like, oh, those are wrinkles, Tim. Jeez. All
I've blown
right,
the illusion of it. Yeah.
you did. You ruined it. All right, so you you had the video game stuff going. You had the movie stuff going. So after all that, like, what was the journey from that to writing, deciding to write books? I mean, you talked a little bit about Nicholas Eames, but it probably wasn't just that. You kind of must
Yeah.
have had this itch to write a book. So what was that little last leg of the journey to get you here?
I mean, I grew up reading before I even watched TV or watched movies, right? So
Right.
it was my first love. And then for whatever crazy reason, when I decided to, jump off a ledge and be creative, I didn't think I would be able to make a living as a novelist. And
Right.
I was surrounded by all these people making money, like making a living in the film industry. So it just seemed like the way to
Yeah.
go.
Hmm.
Uh, but I always wanted to do it. I would start books, write a few chapters, run out of steam or get into the messy middle of it and just run
Yeah.
out of gas or or whatever. uh, but I think over the years a couple things happened. One was working enough in the film industry, you have to finish things and often on really crazy deadlines.
That's true.
So I trained myself to finish stuff, which is I think is a skill set and it's like a
That
muscle you got
is.
to build, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I never did it I didn't originally do it in fiction, but I did it in screenwriting. And so then when I came back to it during COVID, it all comes out of COVID and sitting around with nothing to do, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, I thought, okay, I'm going to do something. There's a contest that they run it worldwide, but it's based in Vancouver, called the 72-hour novel contest. And the idea is that on the Labor Day weekend, you have from midnight Friday till midnight Monday, and you write a approximately 100-page novel. And you can bring as much outlining and notes and materials as you want. But the idea is you start the actual prose on Friday and you go through. So I just decided, well, I'm going to do that. It'll be a 100-page book, but it'll be done. It might be good, it might be bad, but I'll do it. And just as a way of forcing myself past that wall of starting things, getting distracted, and my kind of work career is very much, I have a ton of downtime and I'm doing nothing. And then a project takes off and I'm going, 20 hours a day sometimes, especially in film production, you're happy if you get 6 hours sleep, right? And you do nothing else. So then everything would just kind of go to the side. So this was like a discrete thing. And that I had written a short story about a guy who was a butler in a dungeon and he has a secret, which I won't spoil the secret of
Yeah, yeah.
Majordomo, but it was the same secret. And he's going to hire some people and he doesn't like them very much. And that was what the short story was, but it didn't have there was nothing else on it. It was just about him hiring a couple of orcs that, and this is his job, right? He hires orcs for a dungeon.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, I'm going to take that and tell the whole story of it. We'll meet all the other characters. And so I did that. In 3 days, I had a draft. It's certainly not the final draft, right? You then you hear this a lot in screenwriting too, where people are like, "Oh, I wrote that script in a week," and it's like, yeah, kinda, but you thought about it for 4 years,
Right.
and you wrote a draft in 7 days, and then
Yeah.
you took 9 months of tweaking and
Oh,
adjusting and
yeah.
revising, and
Yeah.
so it was kind of that story. But I had something finished, and so then, and I really loved it. I loved the process of writing it. I loved the final product. And so that really sort of set me on the course to like, okay, I want to, as those other industries, like the gaming industry is in a really steep downturn at the moment. The film industry is quite slow. Instead of just sitting around, I'm going to make the transition to these things. I still work in gaming. I still work in film a little bit. I may be spending my Christmas holidays rewriting a script. I'm waiting. Someone called me with a kind of give us a price and a timeline, and so now I'm waiting if they say yes or not. But
Okay.
but mostly I'm trying to make the transition to fiction, and so I similarly with Jester, I had a short story about a goblin who worked in a castle, and he stumbles across a murder, and he thinks it's one thing, and he thinks, well, I'm gonna fix this because it's got larger consequences.
Yeah.
And then he's actually completely misunderstood. Like he's really smart and we're cheering for him the whole time, but his theory of the crime is completely wrong. And that starts him off on a journey. But it was originally going to be like, he was going to be a detective,
Yeah.
and so this was, and then because it was just a one-off, he's whatever. He's Miss Marple, except that he's a goblin latrine slave and he gets it all wrong. Right. But I thought that was pretty fun. And, so yeah, just making that transition to finish that book, and then now trying to get into the discipline of, okay, finish one, immediately go into the other, and then also figure out how to launch books, figure out how to market them. I think when I first reached out to you, it was because Jester has an audiobook now, so figuring out how to do an audiobook. And by the way, if anyone likes the idea but hasn't had time to read it yet, the audiobook is now on sale. So you can get it through Audible and or use your Audible credit to listen to it. The narrator is a guy named Aubrey Parsons, who's amazing and just did a fantastic job with it. But it's that sort of the indie author journey, I think, of just putting one foot in front of the other, and always looking back going, oh God, I screwed that up.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I love it. And you just reminded me, we talked about doing this before. So everybody that came into the live stream that I've seen pop in here and leave a comment, you guys are entered into a wheel, and the winner is going to get audiobook from Mr. Tim Carter for Jester. So let me make sure I got everybody in here real quick. And while I'm doing that, I do have another question that I'm curious about. So I always like to talk about writing process, and I always think it's interesting if somebody switches genre or writes different kinds of books to talk about how their process changes. But I feel like for you, it's very interesting to me because you've written video games, you've written movies, screenplays, and you've written books, but you've also written novella versus full length novel. So like, how do you feel like your process as far as like plotting and actually writing and all of that stuff, dialogue, action scenes, how do you feel like it changes from medium to medium? Like what's similar and what's different?
Well, I'm an outliner, and that's true for all mediums. Although the difference is in video games, usually you're working from somebody else's outline, right? Like
Right.
the if there's a hierarchy in writing novels, you are God and you have complete control of everything, and so you make all of the decisions. When
Right.
you get into film, it depends. If you've been commissioned to write something, then maybe they gave you a book, or they have someone had an idea. They're like, hey, we want this, and then you go away and adapt it as best you can. So you're
Mhm.
working with somebody else's initial starting point. I mean, I've written spec scripts that I did from scratch, but they almost never get made. What gets made is when the studio head says, let's do a zombie movie. And then, you get picked to be the guy, right, to do the
Right, right.
zombie movie. And then video games, the writer is really a supporting role to gameplay, to the core game loops, to whatever else is in the game. And gaming also is very sequel driven. So like the last really huge game project I did was maybe that's gonna come out, was maybe a year and a half ago. I ran the writers room for Gears of War, for the new Gears of War.
Oh,
But
nice.
we're working with really well established canon. In fact, and I'm not. I mean,
Oh
I'm a
yeah.
huge Gears fan, but I'm not like the biggest canon
Right.
wonk.
You don't
So
know every single thing. Yeah, exactly.
no, and we ran afoul a few times. We stepped on the cannon, and I got yelled at. But that's sort of part of the process. So you really have a very limited amount of flexibility. But I always like to outline, and then once there is an outline, to try to kind of just, I like today I was working on something, and an idea came completely out of the blue that was like really unexpected. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna run with that. Uh, so something bad happens, and then for one of the characters in the party, it's actually amazing.
Yeah.
But everyone else is like, "Oh God, that was awful," and he's like, "This is fantastic."
Yeah.
So it's finding those weird little things that weren't part of the plan at all, but it's just like, you know what, this guy would love this, and so then that's like running with those things. And then I think the biggest thing is putting your butt in a chair. Like that's something you learn like across any medium is 9:01 a.m. I gotta
Yep.
be sitting at my computer, hopefully without distractions, and just try to put the hours in. And some days like the hours are garbage, right?
Yep.
But it's the only way to get through to the end is to just keep pushing.
Yep. Nice. So do you feel like you, as far as preferences go, you kind of treat it all the same as like in writing? You start like a work day, like you said, 9 a.m. and you do it, on your computer at your desk or whatever in your office, that kind of thing? Or do you ever like switch it up, like, well, I've been working on this screenplay, I'm going to go to this coffee shop and write my book, or I'm going to go in this other room and write my book? Or do you just kind of do everything, all work related stuff, in the same spot?
I do all the typing. I'm lucky enough to have two offices. So I have a
Okay.
house in Vancouver. Right now, I'm on a little island off the coast, which is super rural. And like right now, it
Oh,
is pitch
nice.
black outside this office. Like there is nothing. There are no ambient
Yeah.
lights except the one in my house. I'm in a little room, like in the woods, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's awesome because you
A little
really
terrifying,
isolate it.
but cool.
Yeah. It is basically the opening scene of a horror movie. Every time I walk back to the house, I'm like, one day, but uh, so like the actual physical typing on the computer always happens in an office. I go to a coffee shop, I'm looking at people
Oh yeah.
going by, and then my brain just goes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I get nothing done. But a lot of the, like, I think there's two parts to writing. One is like the sitting there typing, and sometimes you just got to do that. But the other is the idea process and the solving the problems, or like, I know this section is totally lame, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'll go walk my dogs,
Yeah.
like in the pouring rain or something, like really not all that pleasant. Um, but like your brain gets going. And so like I end up doing a fair bit of writing walking my dogs because that's when I solve
Yeah.
problems. And and in that case, you sort of want to be a little distracted. Like, I'm
Hmm.
watching for traffic, I'm watching one of them likes to
Oh
eat
yeah.
stuff off the ground, and
Of course.
whatever, all the whatever,
Yeah.
they either see their dogs they're friends with, in which case it's like this madness, or it's one of the local dogs they don't like, in which case it's like drama. But but somewhere in the back of my mind, there's a little part of me that's still processing the story, and I often get the really good ideas there. So I think it's like a blend of button in chair in a non-distracted place, with whatever, walking around, moving, where like 90% of your body is on some other problem, and then that last little bit of it is like, oh yeah, wait a minute, what should happen here is this.
Right. That's awesome. I love that. One more question in this kind of process area is, I guess, for all the things, and maybe it's the same, maybe it's different, but this is always an interesting one people like to know about is background noise. Do you like it to be quiet? Do you like music? Does it have to be instrumental? And is it different if you're writing a screenplay or a game script or a book, or is it kind of it's just working, so you like whatever you like for your background?
I like silence. I can deal with music, but it's got to be instrumental. I can't
Mhm.
know words, right? Like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the cutoff is no words. And it's the
yeah,
same if I'm hanging out like with my wife, and she's really into music. She plays music.
yeah, yeah,
So if she's playing guitar or doing music lessons, that's fine. The
yeah,
minute she starts listening to a narrative of any kind, I'm like, I got to leave the
yeah,
room. Right? I'm toast. But
yeah.
I really like. Yeah, I actually need to. I need to focus, and so I try to remove as many distractions as
Okay.
possible. I will say that when I worked in video games, like these days, it's almost all remote, right? But once upon a time,
Yeah.
we were all in a big room together.
Oh
And
yeah, that's good.
like you would see 60-70% of the team would have like TV shows, usually TV shows for some reason, not movies, that were relevant to our thing. So like crime TV
Hmm.
shows. Like you'd walk around when we were making Sleeping Dogs, and
Yeah,
The Wire would be on over here, and these
yeah,
guys would be watching Hong Kong Gangs. And then they're doing like they got, multiple computer screens, right? So one
yeah,
screen has a movie that's just going all day. And then on the main screen they're doing their work, and it's like the thing is like the osmosis of it
yeah. Just sinking
is
in as they
sinking
write.
into
That's
them, right? And
wild. Okay,
I couldn't do
that's
that,
cool.
but lots of people did,
Huh?
and I assume they still do, and people would swear by it. They'd be like, no, no, there's just something about it, right? Like you can't
Yeah.
explain it, but it's like seeping into the thing. So,
Interesting.
you
That
know,
is very interesting. I like that. So, what did you have to have like noise canceling headphones on or something? Or
yeah, well, I would actually, luckily, I only lived about 3 blocks from the game
mm,
studio. So I would basically run away. Like I would, I
I'm
would
out.
I would be in there, and people would keep, it's all open concept desks, right? So it's
Yeah,
really great in the sense that, especially when you're executing a game, like when you've figured out the big picture, you're mostly working with the mission designers, because it's like someone's got this mission, your guy runs into the little Corona, and then, hey, we're going to go do this thing. And you really have to work carefully with them, because it's like, well, I want the guy to be surprised at this
hmm,
moment. He'd be like,
hmm,
oh, okay, well, whatever. He's the guy that makes like a truck come out of the alley
yeah,
or
yeah,
something. But he would also be like, there's like a bit of a gap here. Can you have him do or say something
yeah,
interesting to kind of fill the space? And so you worked really closely together, and so it's great to have the guy right there.
yeah.
Uh, but then when I actually had to write it, it'd just be like, no, I gotta get the hell out of here. I can't. It's not gonna work. Like there's too many distractions and too many other interesting things going on around me. So I would just go home and not come back until the next day. And as long as things were getting done, nobody
Oh
cared.
yeah, they're fine with it. That's awesome. Very cool. Timothy Janata had a good question. He said, "Do you have a brainstorming partner or idea bouncing person in your life for any of your stuff? I guess. Do you have multiple, depending on what you're writing?"
I don't have a great brain. I definitely don't have a brainstorming partner. Although the other novelists that I know in Vancouver, everyone gets together once in a while for a beer or
Hmm.
breakfast or something. And unlike film, we used to do it in film too. There used to be a group in Vancouver, and everyone would talk about their kind of struggles, but no one would talk about their creative projects. Like no one would be like, "Oh, I'm trying to figure out this thing." It was almost like that was taboo. Whereas the novelists are all like, well, let me tell you what I'm working on. Or they'd be like, you know, tell me what
Yeah.
like what's your story now? And I'd be like shy because it was such a in my old culture it was like you didn't do that, right? Like because you were it was almost like the guy who had no social skills would be the one in at the party telling everyone about his movie script, right? Like you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
that was like inappropriate. So they had to kind of pull it out of me. But now I do know, some quite very successful, very well established, like 20 books in their past authors, and I can take them to dinner and go like, well, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm kind of stuck here. What do you think of that? What do you think this idea is? And people are super supportive, and you get some really interesting insight. Like they just kind of come at it differently. Um,
that's cool.
so that's kind of that's
It works.
probably the closest thing I have. And I sit there with my eyes about this wide, right? Because some
Oh
of
yeah.
these people write my favorite novels and
Oh
just
yeah, and you're like, they're giving me advice.
yeah, it's awesome.
That's awesome. That is very cool. All right, so I think what we'll do, I'll bring on the wheel. We'll see who wins the audiobook, and then if you have time, because we're over an hour already, but if you have time, I'd love to ask you just a few more questions, just for us to get to know you outside of all your
Oh
writing
yeah.
stuff. All
I
right.
figured we were going 90 minutes, so I maybe
All
because
right.
I watch you and Chase go on and on and on. I'm like,
Oh
okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, good. Then you got time then. All right. Let's see. Let me
And
share
I
my
will.
screen again. It's a long process. Go ahead
No,
though.
no problem. And in the meantime, so I have codes. It's Audible. I think people are familiar with it now. So there's US and UK codes, but if you're not in one of those territories, it only takes a tiny bit of technical fiddle faddling to make it work for you. Because being in Canada, to listen to my own book, I had to, kind of do an end around. But whoever wins can let me know which territory they prefer, and we'll make sure that I'll make sure I get them the appropriate code.
All right. Well, here it is. Oh, that is very small. We better make it. I was gonna put it in between us, but it's very small. We'll just spotlight it. All right. So here we go. Uh, let's give a little drum roll. And good luck, everybody. Here we go. Spinning the wheel. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? It's gonna be. Now, Josh did already read it,
Josh is already, yeah.
so I think he'll be okay if we remove him, and we're gonna do it again, guys, because he already read the book. I think he won't mind. All right.
And let me know, Josh, if you don't, you know how to
Yes,
reach me. We'll figure
yes,
something out.
yes. All right, here we go. We'll try one more time. I figured he probably wouldn't win, but of course, then he won. All right, bouncing boredom won. So
All
I
right.
will find them and get a hold of them, and we'll figure it out. Because unless you're still in here, then let us know what you'd like, and if you are in here still, let me see if they responded. Nope. So if you are still in here, let us know. But otherwise, I'll find you. I'll get a hold of you, and we will get this figured out. So let me
Yeah,
get this. Let
perfect.
me get this out of here. There we go. All right. So congratulations to Bouncing Boredom, and thanks everybody for hanging out while we did that. All right. So first question for us to get to know Tim Carter. Outside of writing, what's your favorite color?
Green.
Oh, has it always been green? Is
I
there a
think so,
reason?
yeah. I don't, but I couldn't tell you why, other than I live in the Pacific Northwest and everything is green. But so maybe it's just, whatever.
There.
It's what I'm surrounded by.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. That makes sense. Uh, Tim, thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night, my friend.
Thanks, Tim.
Let's see. And EL, thanks for letting me know that the wheel froze. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens when I share things like that. All right. Next question. Favorite food. If you're choosing what's for dinner, are you going out or staying in? And then what are you having?
Uh, I'm going to say pizza, even though it's, kind of classic. But, and so I'm going out, although we do now have our kind of homemade pizza
Oh,
system down.
nice. Nice.
But my wife would be rolling her eyeballs right now, but, that's all right. Yeah, I'm a sucker for pizza. I'm trying to keep the carbs to a minimum, but what can I say? It's
It's
just
hard. It's hard.
it's hard. Yeah, it's very hard.
Thin crust just isn't. It doesn't hit the same.
Oh no, I like thin crust, so I'm
You
not.
do? Well, then you're
I
good. You're
love.
keeping the carbs
Yeah,
down.
give me
You're keeping
some
the
like.
carbs down.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on it's still
Let's talk
carbs.
about the other top. What's your favorite toppings?
Um, oh, I like me some pepperoni and some different,
Mm.
Italian sausages.
Oh
I
yeah,
think a lot of it is the cheese you put on, actually,
that's true.
um, and mushrooms. I love.
Oh,
I
mushrooms.
love
Yes,
all form of mushrooms.
same.
You can pretty much any kind of mushroom in any kind of dish anywhere.
Oh,
I'm
it's
sold.
always good.
So,
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. Nice. All right. Nice. Oh, we got J.R. Carell is here. What's up, my friend? Thanks for being here. Uh, let's see. Next question. So we've heard about all these amazing things you've done in your career, but what is a hobby or a talent you have that we haven't learned yet?
a hobby that, well, I mean, my biggest hobby is gaming of all kinds. So just the Uber, like I'm learning to play Europa Universalis 5 now as they patch it and change the whole game like every 2 weeks, which is crazy. Um, Outside of like anything connected to the things we're talking about, gardening.
Oh,
So
wow.
I
Okay.
and I went on a weird. So I grew up on a flower farm, and it
Hmm.
was one of those things where, as a teenager, you work for your parents, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So when I was like 19, I knew more about growing, harvesting, and drying flowers than pretty much anyone. Um, it was quite a big operation. Like I would run a team of 20 people picking flowers in
Wow.
the summer, and
So
and then I
legit.
was like, it was legit. It was like a moderately big business, and then I didn't want anything to do with it, right? Much to the chagrin of my parents,
Yeah.
none of
Yeah.
their kids wanted to inherit the family business.
Yeah.
We all had our different things we wanted to do, and I ran off to grad school and just was like, yeah, I'm done with like that. I'm no interest in that.
Yeah.
And then we got the place that I'm in right now as I'm talking to you, and somebody like 20 years ago had been a master gardener here and had planned the whole thing out, and there's all kinds of really interesting plants here, and we just started weeding just to kind of make it presentable, and then the whole place sort of came to life, and both my wife and I have gotten totally sucked into, I'll come out here and spend on the weekend, spend 10 hours a day in the garden doing stuff like manual labor, which
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, okay, what was my vacation weekend? I weed whacked for 9 hours. Uh, but I love it. It's so it completely unrelated to anything else, but it's really
Interesting.
satisfying. So
That's good. That's good. That's a good one to have. One with nature. Like I'm sure you've thought of some good story ideas while doing that kind of stuff.
well, and it does let it's like you're doing manual labor, but you're either listening to a
Right.
podcast with your
Yep.
headphones or you're letting your imagination
Yeah.
go because
Yeah.
weeding does not require a lot of sort of
No,
mental,
no, you don't.
right?
Yeah, yeah. You can let your mind drift a little. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not with the weed whacker. You got to be careful.
Well, yeah, yeah. Heavy machinery and
Lose a leg or
chainsaw, it's probably a
anything.
good idea to be paying attention. But
That's true. That's true. All right. Now, next question. So we heard about your start into like all your writing and everything, but before that, what was your first job that you got a paycheck for, like in your teen years, like before you really got into your writing career? What was your first job?
so I worked for my parents, like I said, the whole
Oh
way
yeah.
through until I left for university. So
Oh yeah. So that
you
was
know,
that was it.
that was it. I was like, it was part time during the school year and full time in the summers. And I
Wow.
started as a minion, right? So as one of the kids picking
Yeah.
flowers, like the summer crew is all kind of high school, like grade 11, grade 12
Yeah.
kids. And then as I got older and more responsible, right, I
Yeah.
took on more responsibility. But so yeah, I was in grad school as a research assistant, was the first non parental gig. Well, and actually, I was that's not true. I was a security guard at the big stadium in Vancouver for concerts.
Oh
Was
wow. Okay.
because I played for the university rugby team and they recruited
Oh
out of
nice.
there.
Oh,
That
you played rugby too?
I did, yeah.
You keep having more interesting things you drop on us.
Oh, thanks. That's
That's pretty cool. How
passion
did
to
how
play.
did your rugby years go?
They went well. I played competitively at high school, and I played for a men's league team. I was 6'1" when I was 15, so I
Oh
played,
my gosh,
and then I
man!
stopped. Like that was it. That was I went up,
And he never grew again.
and I never grew again. But so I was playing for like the local men's league team in the little town I grew up in. With like 25-year-old loggers, so high school was a lot of fun because everyone
Oh
suddenly was
man,
my size again.
yeah,
And so I played for the University of British Columbia, which was a really top tier rugby school, and I played like kind of on the second level. Like I was like the guys in the first level all played for the national team,
yeah,
and would go off to the World Cup and stuff. So I wasn't at that
yeah,
caliber.
yeah.
But it was great. I practiced with them all the time, and it was great to be like just one notch below that was still pretty cool. Uh,
Heck yeah, that's
and so
awesome, man.
I played that until like 25, and then all of a sudden it
Oh,
started to hurt, in a way
I
that,
would imagine that is a brutal sport, kind of like. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that catches up to you, I'm sure.
I enjoyed it. It was, and I think I was too dumb to be scared. Right. And so, and then once
Yeah,
you're in it, you're sort of like, oh, this is what I do on Saturday. Right. So,
yeah, yeah.
uh, it was fun. But yeah, I did have a couple of surgeries in my
Oh,
40s. And like all of a sudden there was a problem. And I went in the doctor and they're like, did you hurt this when you were 19? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Time for surgery. You're like,
you're like,
oh,
yeah, that tracks.
I guess that's
That's the
the
price you
price to
pay
pay. Yeah.
for being a rugby star. Oh, that's pretty cool, man. All right. J.A. Bryden just popped in, another awesome author from Down Under. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Appreciate you. All right. So, next question. What was your first car?
My first car. So this is going to be crazy. My first car was a Saab 9000 convertible, and it
Oh
was
my God.
way like I didn't own a car. Now I was in relationships with girls who had cars, but I didn't own my first car until I was like 30. So I mean, I
Oh,
could drive, right? I drove,
right.
but
You drove.
it
Yeah.
just wasn't my car. And I lived in a like right in kind of the hub of Vancouver where you didn't really need a car. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it
That's
wasn't
true.
quite like Manhattan or something crazy,
Right,
but
right.
it was, yeah,
You
you
didn't
could
have
be
to
an
worry about
adult
it.
with a day job and a girlfriend and not need a car, and it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. CEL, thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you. All right. So what color was it? This convertible.
Green. It was green. So there you
Of
go. It's my
course, it
favorite.
was green.
Yeah.
Like a dark green or a light green.
Dark green. Dark like forest green.
Did it have like a whitish top?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, like the cream interior,
Yeah.
and this was when I moved to California, and you had to have a car. And the thing with convertibles is that they you cannot leave the top down,
Yeah.
because your interior will absolutely get shredded. And so
Oh
this
no.
thing, the car worked great, but like all the leather was cracking, and
Oh
it was
gosh.
kind of one of those like the first car you get when you like. Did you ever see that movie, or not that movie, the TV show? Again,
It
my
looked
old
like
age is
this.
going to catch up with me. It was the guy from X Files, David Duchovny. Yes, there you go. That's it
There it is.
exactly.
That's pretty sweet, man. I like that green too.
So David Duchovny had a TV show where he was a writer in Santa Monica, and I think he drove a Porsche, but he drove an old battery. He was sort of like moderately successful in the
Yeah.
show, and he drove this old battered Porsche around all the places where I lived, and I was like, I would watch the show, and I'm like, oh, this is just deja. Like that guy is me, right? Going as agent, like, come on, man, I need a job, and
Yeah. That's crazy. Oh man. Yeah, that was true. That you could see yourself in that character for sure. That's
yeah.
pretty cool. I don't remember that show. I'll have to look it up
I
to see if
can't
I
remember
remember
what it was
seeing.
called. It was good, but it was odd. And then I mean, all the shows about LA are kind of angsty. And then if you actually
Yeah.
live there, then it's doubly angsty because at once you're like, oh, stop whining, and then you're like, oh shit, I did that. So
Wait, that is spot on. Hold on. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Okay, so let's to wrap up here. I'm gonna do some kind of either or questions for
Sure.
you. Okay. So we've talked about how you're a big gamer. So first question for gaming wise, PC or console?
Now
Or you
PC.
started PC and
Yeah.
then you went console, then back to PC.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
exactly the journey. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, so let's go. When you did console, two questions. One, Sega or Nintendo?
I missed that whole generation. I was still
Oh,
on
okay.
PC. Yeah.
Okay, so you went right into like PlayStation, Xbox?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what'd you go with?
I went Xbox originally, and then once I was working in the business, one
Yeah.
of everything. You know.
Nice. I was gonna say, I'm sure you had everything.
Yeah.
And then now you pretty much ever since you switched back to PC, you've just always done PC, like have like a gaming PC and stuff.
Yeah. I have a gaming PC. I have a gaming laptop as well, which chugs a
Oh,
little,
nice.
but it's
Oh,
okay. It'll handle most stuff. And
they'll get it
um,
done.
my goal for this summer, I have a big patio here, and it's in the Pacific Northwest. You get about 6 weeks where it's really nice outside in
Yeah,
August, right?
right.
Like, it's not a
Yeah.
big window, but there's like a little window.
Little time.
Uh, and I stretched a projector screen across the deck,
Oh,
and then put a projector out then and watched a movie under the stars, and
dude, that's
had a glass of
awesome.
wine.
Heck
So
yeah.
next year I want to I'll hook the computer up to the projector as the output, and then play video games.
No.
Like 10 feet
Ah,
across, right?
that's a crazy. If you do that, you got to record it and send it to me so I can see what it looks like.
I'll get some. I'll see. I tried to take some pictures of the movie just to show my friends, and
Yeah.
but it my iPhone at night with the
Yeah, oh
projector,
yeah.
it
It
doesn't
never
look
looks
as
as cool
much,
as it
right?
does in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the video game, like how that'd be wild. That'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
imagine like Fallout or Elden Ring or whatever, and it's just massive, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That'd be sweet. JA said, have you done the Henry Cavill thing and built your own PC minus the guns and the arm muscles?
Yeah. Long ago, yes, because way back when I was reviewing video games, you had to like I can still remember, and I still play games with the guy who was the managing editor at the time. But this
Mhm.
again, I'm aging myself. He phoned me up one day and said, "I'm sending you a game. You need to go buy a thing called a 3D card, which nobody owned at the time, because
Yeah.
it'll only run if you have one. It's called Half Life, and you're going to love it."
Oh
So I
yeah.
had to go basically build a Half Life compatible PC, and then that got me in the habit of just a sound card. Okay, great. And then you sort of it wasn't like I built it as a single thing from
Yeah.
scratch.
You just
It
kept
just
kind of
became this
piecing
thing.
it.
You're like, I need
Yeah.
another hard drive. I'll just bolt one in
Yeah.
there. And then somehow, it's like a lot of my mechanical skills. Growing up on a farm, once upon a time, I'd be in there working on tractors and stuff. All of that information just left my brain. Uh, so now, if you
No
ask me,
space for
same
that.
with building PCs. At one time, I was really comfortable doing it, and now it's like I wouldn't go within 100 miles of it. That's just a recipe for trouble.
Oh man, you got too many stories in there now. You don't have room for a lot
They
of
knocked
it.
out all the technical information
Yeah,
and the
that's about.
know-how.
Oh, that's cool though. All right. Let's see. What would you say as being a gamer? What are some of your favorite games of like the all time?
All time. I mean, I love Fallout, both the original sort of isometric one
Oh,
and then
yeah,
the
me too.
adaptations to it. There's pretty much nothing bad about Fallout.
Yeah.
Even the bits and pieces where you're like, oh, that one wasn't quite.
Yeah.
I
They're
loved
still
all of
good.
them.
Oh yeah.
It was so good. Um, I'll go everything from like Europa Universalis, these uber detailed, go down a rabbit hole. Like half the fun of the game is the 100 hours it takes you to learn how to play it properly. Like
Oh
that just
gosh.
absurdity to I'm fully addicted to Slay the Spire.
Ooh. Hmm.
Which is just much more simple, but
Yep.
I love the mechanics of that and the building the deck and the strategy involved
Yeah.
in like making the most out of the cards you pull. So I can go either one. Both of those
Oh, you're
games
all over.
occupy
Yeah.
insane
Way
amounts of my
across the
time.
spectrum of
Yeah,
video games there. That's
yeah,
awesome, man. So you really have like a love for video games. I love that.
I do. I love games. It was one of those weird things that the first time I saw a strategy game, it was I don't have this level of talent, but it's like Beethoven looking at the piano. It's like, oh, I know what that is, right? I
Yep.
know I'm going to like that.
Yeah. Oh man. Now as a writer though, do you feel like you have to be careful with video games because they can be such a time suck because they're so fun and they're so involved? Like, do you have
Yeah,
to like be aware and be like, okay, I need to stop?
yeah, for sure. And I it's all about sort of drawing the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
So I one of the techniques I use for writing is these days is like put a timer on. Okay, it's 45 minutes. All I'm doing is writing, and then I got 15 minutes to answer emails or texts or whatever,
Yeah.
and then I'll go back again. So if I am going to say play a game on my lunch hour, it's the same thing. 45 minutes when the thing goes off, you just got to put it away, right?
Yeah.
And the challenge is that, like, I think good video games, like the whole thing is they're getting you into that flow state where it's like you really want to be there for 3, 4, 5 hours,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, uh, so then it's got to be, you got to parcel out time in the evening or whatever. I don't have children, and my wife travels for work sometimes,
Mhm.
so I get on average one bachelor night a week, I would say.
Yeah.
And so then that kind of gives me an outlet where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can either call a buddy, which I frequently do, and say, okay,
Yeah.
let's, we'll get on and we'll play something against each other or
Yeah.
together, or it'll just be like, you know what, I walk the dogs, I'm done. Like all my responsibilities for the day are
Yeah.
done. I got from 6 p.m. to whenever I decide I got to go to bed. I
Heck
can
yeah.
just go down the rabbit hole if I want to.
Ah,
So
you got to do that as a dude once in a while, man. I'm glad that
yeah,
you do that. That's awesome. Very
I,
cool.
we all need one, and I like men and women, right?
Oh
You got to
yeah.
have your bachelor
Equally.
night to just be like,
Yes.
it's not like I'm going to do anything crazy, but I have no obligations.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's like a human necessity. You got to be
Yeah,
able to
totally.
just unwind, not even unwind, like unplug,
Yeah.
kind of. But you're plugging into the video games. But still, you know what I mean. You got to do that with something you love. So that's good. All right. So next question. I got two more. So first one, either or, which one's better, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Well, I'm going to say Star Wars, although I will say it depends. I think to me, I mean, okay, there's the fan rabbit hole, right? But for me, it's like Star Trek is in the middle, like its quality bar
Mhm.
is kind of stable,
That's
right?
true. That's
Whereas Star Wars is a little
it's,
more up and
yeah,
down,
up
right?
and down. That's very
Like
true.
Andor and some of the other ones, like the ones that are good are
Yeah,
really
they're
good,
so good.
and
Yeah,
so
and the ones that
and
are bad are pretty bad.
are pretty bad, and I just avoid those. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to factor them in.
Okay, yeah. So what do you think is the best Star Wars movie? What's your favorite one?
It's the end, or what is it Rebel?
Oh, oh my gosh. How do we not remember the name of this movie? This is
Uh,
embarrassing. Yeah,
it's
what's the movie that Andor leads into? Holy smokes.
yeah.
We suck. I hope nobody
We're
watches it.
losing our nerd cred off of this. Yeah.
No
Uh,
one's ever gonna watch this again. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, dude. We got to
or
remember
the
this before.
original, like the
We
original
got to
Star
remember
Wars.
this before somebody tells us.
Yeah. Uh,
Why can't I remember what it's called? I
the
love that
problem is
movie.
there's too many iconic lines like A New Hope
Yeah,
and
I
Rebel
know.
Moon and uh,
Son of a gun. Rogue One, yes, Timothy
Rogue One. There
Janata.
we go. Yeah.
There it
Thank
is.
you.
Thanks,
Uh,
man. Oh my gosh, what's wrong with us? Timothy Wolf's here. What's up, man? Thanks for being here. Uh, Another Tim. Oh man, Rogue One. How did we forget that?
yeah,
That
Rogue
is
One's my
very good.
favorite movie, and Andor's my favorite TV
Ah,
series of the
so good,
bunch. I
so
mean,
good.
to me they're on their own level. You know.
Oh yeah, agreed. So good. I mean that whole Darth Vader sequence in Rogue One was so sweet. Seeing
Yeah.
that done again, just like in New Hope, so good. All right. Let's see. Well, since you talked about Star Trek 2 a little, I will ask you then what's the best Star Trek series?
When I can't claim to be really up on Star Trek, I'm a Battlestar guy, to be
Oh,
honest.
nice,
But
nice. Yep, yep.
uh, I guess, I mean, you got to leave out the original now is dated, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so So it would be, like, what is it in Next
I feel like
Generation? The
yeah,
original
it's usually
Picard?
between
Like,
Next
yeah.
Generation or Deep Space Nine. I feel like people usually are.
And I never watched Deep Space Nine, but I know people. Again, I think they made that. They might have made that in Vancouver. I know people who worked on it,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, they talk about the politics and stuff, and it's like, oh, actually, that sounds like that might be my jam, but I just never. I missed it when it came out, and now it's like, oh god, there's probably 150 episodes or something, right? So it's
I know. There's probably so many. I know. I don't think I watched it all the way through because I was always a Star Wars kid. My older brother was Star Trek, so I'd watch some with him, but I never watched everything all the way through. So I know.
yeah,
Uh,
a lot too.
Timothy, what agrees with you with on Battlestar though? So
I
there you go.
love the reboot of Battlestar. I thought was some of the best TV. I mean, there's definitely some low points in it, but I thought, especially the first few seasons, and even I thought they had stuck the landing. So I really enjoyed that.
Me
Really,
too. I
and it
agree.
had some of the best creator commentary. Like when you go back to on the DVDs of movies, you would have like the director or whatever doing the
Oh yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah. You're
the,
right.
sh-
Yeah,
the showrunner for that did commentary, and he released it, I think, the day after each episode came out, so you could get it, download it like as a podcast, even though I think this is before podcasting,
yeah,
and then like watch it on your PVR. And he was great. He gave really good insight and like a lot of sort of he wasn't just puffery, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I know I was working in the film industry at the time, and it was like, oh, I actually learned things from this guy. So it's great.
That is
I think Ron
rare
D.
with that stuff.
did it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question. Now, I don't know if you ever got into comics much at all, but I like to always ask DC or Marvel, which is better.
I never really got into comics except as a little kid, where it was Sergeant Rock and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think Sergeant Rock is DC, but
I think
uh,
so. Yeah.
uh, so I don't know, and I'm really colored by the movies,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
so I mean, Marvel just became this juggernaut that,
Oh
on the
yeah.
one hand, you sort of like. I mean, I want to root for the little guy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then like Iron Man and some of the other when they stuck them again, the
That's good. Marvel's starting
all
to
over
get
the
like
place, but when they landed
Star
it,
Wars.
they were
One
awesome.
year, and you wonder like when did that start? When Disney took over both of them? I don't know.
Yeah,
you know. Oh man. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean I love Batman, so I've always loved DC, but Marvel the movies were much better. But James Gunn, I do love Guardians of the Galaxy, and I like what
yes.
he's done so far. I love Peacemaker. Superman was pretty good, so we'll see. We'll see.
I haven't watched Peacemaker yet, but the
Pretty good.
Penguin
Oh,
was
Penguin was so
freaking
good.
awesome. Yeah,
Hmm.
that again, it's a bit like Andor for me. It's like you have these things and they feel like they're a regurgitation of the thing they
Yes.
did before, and then all of a sudden one comes along and it's like, oh, they went off in a completely different
Oh
direction.
yeah.
It was so good.
It was,
I
man,
wish
and that ending, dude, that sat with me for days.
I just wish they would learn the lesson of, take some, like, okay, great, Batman's got to be Batman. I get it, right?
Yeah.
If you're not going to do that with Batman, but go, go take some risks, go crazy,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I hope that was a sign of things to come because that was such a good show. Yeah,
yeah,
I really love that too. I agree. Uh, all right, so we went over the 90 minutes because it's just so fun chatting with you, my friend. So I think we'll wrap it up here. I keep checking my phone because my son is at his uh, girlfriend's house and he's supposed to text me when I need to come pick him up. And I don't want him to be there too long.
yeah,
So, because that's never good if her parents go to bed. I mean, he's 16. We don't
yeah.
need to talk about that. But so we'll wrap it up here. Before I go into my ending spiel, I'll let you have the floor to shout out, talk about anything that you want to.
Oh, well, thanks so much. You know what? I'm just going to say how grateful I am that you had me on. It's been an awesome conversation. So I really enjoyed it. And, I'll plug myself. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter.
Mhm.
I'm kind of on Instagram, but I am so incompetent on it that you can rely on me not doing very much interesting there. And Jester just came out on audiobook. So it's obviously in print and ebook, but the audiobook is out now. I think the narrator did an awesome job. And so give it a look.
There you go. I agree. I'm reading this and it's very good, guys. Check it out. And you heard Tim's awesome story. So he is worth supporting and jumping on now to be a part of his journey because he's got some awesome things coming down the pipeline. So thanks again for hanging out, man. It was a blast. I had a lot of fun, and you are welcome back anytime, especially anytime you have a new book come out, but anytime you want to come on in general and just hang out, chat, talk about anything, let me know. And I'd love
Oh,
to have
thanks
you back.
so much. Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course, of course. I'm excited to be a part of the journey, man. So everybody in the live chat, thank you for hanging out. Appreciate you. Everybody in the replay, we appreciate you as well. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you in the next one. And as I always say, until I do, devour your TBRs, be brave, be beautiful to one another, and be beastly.